retention of skilled and professional staff. Government, cognizant of the fact that in as much as it must provide decent pay for all public servants, it is equally important to guarantee a decent livelihood for retirees at the end of their active service. This is a key motivational factor for people to stay on their jobs and contribute effectively to any role they are assigned to carry out. The bill seeks to centralize the pension administration with a view to making the process of pension and gratuity payment less cumbersome as it is currently the case. The bill will repeal the 1950 Pensions Act and will introduce a contributory pension scheme as opposed to the current non-contributory scheme, thus addressing a number of limitations of the current Pensions Act 1950. Thus, the bill seeks to introduce a new procedure for the management, administration, and processing of retirement benefits to ensure not only the improvement of pension entitlements, but also the efficiency of the process of pension payment. Thank you.
Honorable members, it's here. This here. In accordance with. Honorable members, in accordance with clause 67(1) in bracket of the standing order, I will now open the floor for debate on the general merit and the principle of the bill. Any honorable member who wishes to take part in the debate may do so by raising your constituency tag.
Observe. May I observe?
Observation, honorable member.
Yeah, I wish to observe that this is what is presented, and I am thinking whether do we need to adopt this before we open the debate or not, because this was not inclusive in the original text. Thank you.
Honorable member, it was adjourned last time because of the objects and the reasons were not provided. And today, the objects and the reasons were provided, and I believe these objects and reasons must have been in the pigeonhole of all honorable members of the Assembly. So,
I am not arguing the fact that this was circulated earlier, but I am saying this was not inclusive in the original text. So I am simply saying, do we have to adopt this? Hence, we are having this and it is now presented. Do we need to adopt it before we open the floor for debate?
Honorable Chair, can I help, please?
yes, honorable member, what do you want to?
Yes, Honorable Chair, I think what the Honorable Member is trying to talk about, because last time was, given consideration, the object and the reasons we are missing. Now, if they are available now, I think it should be a new form of laying, and the motion has to be laid properly and be seconded. That's my opinion.
Well,
the bill, rather.
Thank you. May I now get the honorable member for Serakunda?
If we look at Standing Order 64, Honorable Speaker, it says that every bill shall be accompanied by a memorandum signed by the person in charge of the bill containing a statement of the objects and reasons of the bill. And no bill shall be introduced unless accompanied by the memorandum referred to in paragraph 1. So it will be appropriate to incorporate the objects in the bill and do the same process of ensuring that it is moved for the second time. Yeah.
In other words, Honorable Member, can you please now move a motion to that effect?
The position is that the Vice President should move
Exactly.
that this bill.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for that clarity. Honorable Vice President, Your Excellency, can you please move a motion to that effect? What is this?
Thank you very much. With this statement, I beg to move. Honorable Speaker. The bill
The incorporation of the object in the bill.
I move that the incorporation of the object and reasons of the bill be incorporated. Thank you. In the bill. Yes, thank you.
Any seconder? Willie East?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion. In the same vein, to express a few remarks on the merits and the bill. Honorable Speaker, I believe this scheme is fantastic. It's a fantastic idea which will go a long way in providing financial security and stability at a time when people become aged. Retirees become old age. Because, Honorable Speaker, many retirees now are not guaranteed regular income or source of income. So a scheme like this will be very helpful to people who are retired. Because, Honorable Speaker, without this type of scheme, the life of retirees can be compromised, especially the standard of life or standard of living of the retirees can be greatly compromised as they get older and older. Honorable Speaker, I also believe that the scheme will provide opportunity and chance to increase the savings of retirees so that at the end of their retirement, they'll be able to have at least substantial sum to take care of their survival. Also, Honorable Speaker, we know life expectancy for Gambians is improving, and the health conditions also, including sanitation, is also improving. So our expectation is that the life expectancy of the people will also greatly improve. So many retirees will eventually live longer lives than we are or our fathers have done after 60 or 65 years of service. So they will greatly need this scheme. Honorable Speaker, I believe this scheme has put or should put into consideration not only the rising cost of living now, but also inflation. Because what is happening is that inflation is always increasing, and the cost of living is also increasing, but the retirees, therefore, are receiving less, because by virtue of what they receive, when inflation is increased and that is not put into consideration in their pension, it means that life becomes harder for them. So I believe that this particular scheme should put into consideration the inflation and the cost of living that we are expected to, or we are expecting. Honorable Speaker, I also think that this scheme, I don't know how it looks like it is only meant for civil servants, but I was thinking of people who are not in the civil service, people who are not in the private sector, who are not benefiting from the social security scheme. If they will be able to participate in this scheme, because it's meant for saving at an old age. So I was thinking of, for example, small traders and farmers, if they can also be allowed to come into the scheme and participate in it, with a view to safeguarding their age, their old age. When you go into the bill, Honorable Speaker, for example, in section 15, where it's talking about pensionable emoluments for computation of benefits, the gratuity of a public officer, that is pensionable emoluments that is received by the pensioner, within the 36 months preceding retirement shall be used to calculate pension. So I was thinking, why not the last year of the pensioner's income be used to calculate the emoluments rather than the 25-month span. I was just thinking, you can think of that. Also, when you go to section 17.2, it is saying almost the same thing. It is the final pensionable emoluments for each complete month of pensionable service. So why not we use what obtains in 17.2 for section 15 for them to be consistent? That's something I was thinking. Honorable Speaker, in section 18 as well, you have dependents' pension. It said subsection 3A, if the deceased public officer leaves a widow. So I was thinking maybe some of these things are cut and paste. Sometimes they may not agree. We need to know that our culture is a bit different from some of those countries because it's polygamous. Many a time a man will die, but is leaving 2 or 3 or 4 women behind. So instead of a widow, we should say widows to ensure that all the women are involved. Also, when you go to section 22, I observed that it is saying, section 22.2, shall make a monthly contribution of 25% to the accountant general until secondment expires. We need to look at it more closely and ensure that it really serves the interest of the pensioner, because this is for the pensioners. Section 23 is reducing the preserved benefit by 2% per year, remaining before attaining the age of 60 years. So why are we reducing their benefits by 2%? needs to be clear. Honorable Speaker, if you also look at 26, pension increase, I believe that is very positive. So many pensioners are suffering because, like I said, while inflation is going up, pensions are stagnant. And therefore, they cannot meet their minimum cost of basic commodities when it comes to buying basic commodities. Like I said, basic commodities are going up, but pension is stagnant, and therefore these people, everything that they receive is just going into buying food, for example, for the family. So we need to look into that, consider that. We should also put into consideration, yes, I've already mentioned that when the person died, you know, we are talking about when somebody dies and leaves one person, a widow. But sometimes they will just say one person, but we should consider. Because where they are talking about subsidiary legislation, I think it is necessary that whatever subsidiary legislation is going to be done, if it is enacted together, considered together and enacted together with this one, rather than doing them separately, I think that will just take us another step. So on that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank the mover of the motion and thank members and all the members to lend their support to this bill, which is here to support our pensioners who have been suffering since 1965 or even before 1965. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the objects and the reasons stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Honorable members, in accordance with clause 67(1) of the standing order, I will now open the floor for the debate on the general merits and principle of the bill. Any honorable member who wishes to take part in the debate may do so by raising his constituency or her constituency tag. Willie West. Let me see the list. Willie West.
I have a motion, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable.
I have a motion.
Motion, Honorable Member for Nyamina East.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, I want to move a motion on Standing Order 53C that this Honorable Assembly will debate on the merit and the principle of the bill for not more than 4 minutes for each member. Thank you.
Any seconder to that motion? Honorable Member for Upper Saloon.
Yes, I rise to second the motion.
General merit and principle.
Honorable Speaker, it seems we didn't move to sit beyond 6 o'clock and it's almost 6 o'clock.
Let's deal with this motion. Thereafter, yes. Yes, but
Time.
let's deal with this motion first.
You cannot deal with the motion beyond the time. 6 o'clock we'll go home.
6 o'clock will not go. Please, you are wasting my time here. Allow me to do what I am supposed to do, please.
Very well.
Sit down, sit down.
I can address you, Honorable Speaker. We are getting to 6 o'clock.
Sit down, I say, sit down.
Honorable Speaker, it's almost time, 6 o'clock. We need... No.
It has been moved and seconded.
The debate
On the medical
on
principle,
principle should not be more than
8 members should not be more than.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the debate on the general merit and the principle of the bill by each member should not be more than 4 minutes. Those in favor, please say aye. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it.
Now, any person who has a motion.
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 You can come with your motion now.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move that this August Assembly sits beyond 6 o'clock.
Lower Nyomi.
I second him. I move to second the motion.
Now, it has been moved and seconded.
This House said beyond 6 o'clock.
The assembly sits beyond 6 o'clock.
It has been moved and seconded that this assembly sit beyond 6 o'clock. Those in favor, please say aye. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. The assembly will now sit beyond 6 o'clock.
I now will you rest?
I think I have to read this thing.
No, you have already read.
Do I?
Yes, yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Now, may I now call on Honorable Member for Woodley West.
Being the chairman of the Standing Orders Committee, I speak for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was the reason why I give you the floor first.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have a very important piece of legislation before us. Many in these chambers have advocated for many years the need to change this pension scheme in this country. For this was a republic where people would work for 20 years, 30 years, and at the end of their service, they live their lives in destitute. There are cases of pensioners who would leave their pension in the treasury for almost a year to be able to buy a bag of rice. I know one case where a pensioner receives only $80 per month for his pension. Now, the Honorable Vice President says that the bill seeks to achieve cardinal principles of highly motivated and performing civil service. These have very important, serious implications. How do you make a civil service attractive, motivational? First, the employee must have the opportunity to be well trained, and having been well trained, giving a job for which he or she is qualified, not to be a round peg in a square hole. And of course, the person must be giving a good salary, so that when he or she goes on pension, he or she would still have the possibility to live a decent life. But here I have seen MPs who have served this republic for years. After their retirement, they lived as destitute MPs, and they died as destitute. And now I'm talking about MPs, members of this noble assembly, who serve this republic in the capacity of representatives of people and then end up living their lives as destitutes. If the intention of this legislation is to change that fundamentally, then we must be very happy. It is said that it is never too late for reason to prevail. But to be able to attract highly qualified people into a civil service, as currently obtained in this country, most people are working in the private sector because that's where they get better pay. Highly qualified people go elsewhere to work because that's where they have better pay. But to change that, it means that something else has to change fundamentally in order to be able to attract, to become competitive. And to retain, it means that the same situation will continue to prevail. You must just not be stuck in one place, but will keep on developing and moving upwards. But in terms of receiving salary, in terms of cultivating yourself to become always a better servant of the people. And to stop people going away, it means that the situation must change fundamentally. So this bill has a lot of work to do, because it has come to deal with a situation which is so bad that it only needs overhaul, not amending, but overhauling the whole system. Not changing anything, but to sweep it away and put in its place something better. Something which is better for a sovereign person, a sovereign qualified person belonging to a republic. So we here, we also have a job to do. We have to look at this piece of legislation very critically and make sure that what was not there before must come in for us to have people, sovereign citizens who will have the right to serve their republic decently and live decent lives in the service of their people. That's the only way they can earn well.
Member.
All right.
We agreed it's 4 minutes and then...
Okay, I stop here because where I stop, some other people will take. My friend from Lower Nyomi will take it from there. Thank you.
Honorable Majority Leader and Member for Combo South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to join the Honorable Member for Woodley West to thank the Her Excellency the Vice President for coming with this bill, which is very timely. Since independence, we have not had a proper pension structure in place. And I think this is about time that we have civil servants who are motivated and they stay on the work until their retirement. And I think this comes at a very good time when the retirement age had been increased from 55 to 60. So for those young generation of people who will be employed in the civil service, at least you will serve 40 good years before you go on retirement. So this will give them a good opportunity for them to go back home with a very good pay that will enable them to take care of their families and also other livelihoods. And as explained by the mover of the motion, the importance of this pension scheme is very timely. And I think what they have stated in the reasons and objects, it is going to motivate and restructure the retiring processes of people having their gratuities when they are retired. But one thing that needs to be looked at, we live in a digitalized world, the recording systems have to be correct. If that is not done, we'll still continue to have the problems that people do encounter when they retired from their job places after serving for so many years. So I think it is the directorate that is going to be set up. There should be proper recording and ensuring that all deductions that are done on a monthly basis are recorded to the right beneficiaries and they are done on a timely basis. And I think the data sets will have to be well managed. The bill also seeks to centralize the pension administration with a view of making process of pension and gratuity payable less cumbersome as it is currently in the case. As alluded to by the Honorable Member for Woolly West, somebody living in Basse, and if you want him or her to travel to Banjul for $150. So that's why most of them, they don't even remember whether they have money in the treasury, because some people, it takes them 2 years before they come to Banjul. So all those monies will be lying there, and at the end of the day, there is no proper recording and ensuring that they have these things there. So I think the information system that is going to be set up, taking care of this pension scheme, will have to be well managed and ensure that there is information and sensitization on the processes and programs that are going to be done. And that will be the cardinal point for the implementation and sustainability of this program. So now the bill also seeks to repeal the 1950 Pensions Bill, as I said earlier on. This was well before our independence. But I think it will also be very helpful if a copy of this bill can also be available for the committee that will be looking in depth in this bill here, so that they are able to contrast and look at some of the points, or even ensuring that what other things that they need to do. And I think best practices have to be followed to ensure that all the actions that are being said, especially when it comes to the setting up of the directorate, that is going to be responsible of the collection and collation of the data, ensuring that monies that are collected are put in place and ensuring that they are not tampered with. Because this is something that needs to be done. The Honorable Member for Woolly is also talked about the computation of the funds. Because I've seen if you look at section 23 or whatever, people who are seconded from one department to another are going to contribute more than what they have been contributing in their original workplace before they go on to the secondment. So I think that computation needs to be followed, and ensuring that all those differences that are done are added onto the deducts or are added onto the sum that is there for the pensioner to be able to have all these things. And Honorable Speaker, I think this is something that we need to look into, and we also have to learn about best practices that are done in other countries in the sub-region, other Commonwealth member countries, that will enable us and help us to be able to do that.
Majority
On that
Leader,
note, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Interrupt, your time is up. May I now call on Honorable Member for Serakunda. Serakunda, please.
I think my time is up before I even start. Honorable Speaker, we are not dealing with an ordinary matter, and pensions need to be reconceptualized. Honorable Speaker, pensions constitute the highest form of capital accumulation in the world. Countries are taking this fund, buying bonds in banks, buying shares, and are building billions out of workers' fund. For over 55 years, you are deducting money and you are not investing it anywhere. All you are doing is replenishing government fund, because you take from the worker and put it in the consolidated fund, and then you appropriate to go and pay that person. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Vice President should see that this is just a process of remedying an injustice which now exists, where people pay And at the end of the day, they find it difficult to receive what they have put in national coffers. To a point that they give up because it becomes more expensive to come because of the bureaucracy to claim for your birthright. This may address that if what is there is properly implemented. But what this cannot do is the injustice of deducting money and not investing in such a way that the person who is depositing, because he is depositing in a bank, who has ever deposited money in a bank and does not expect interest? For 40 years, you are depositing money in a bank and you don't expect interest. Where in the world do you find that? And that is what is happening to the pension fund in this country and many countries due to our colonial legacy. That is the mindset that should change. This deposit, and it should yield interest. So what we need, Honorable Speaker, is to again look at the whole pension policy. It's not only about a law, it's the fundamental principle and policy. What type of policy must we institute so that workers' fund will go and be invested so that there will be interest annually building up? That is the way that we can avoid the pastoral ultimately getting chicken change. So I would recommend very strongly, Honorable Speaker, because of the time, I would have quoted the pension funds of Japan and all this, and you see the amount of billions. And how do they acquire? They're investing in shares and bonds and augmenting those funds so that just like a bank, it will build up and it will give interest to those who are saving their money. And that is the scheme that we should adopt in this country to be able to eradicate the poverty of our people.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May I now call on Honorable Member for Jara East. Jara East, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Time is not my best ally. I'll be very brief. Honorable Speaker, the right to a dignified retirement after a long years of hard work cannot be underestimated. Honorable Speaker, people in Africa work because of the glory of work and not what they are paid for. If you consider the African worker is just paid a pittance at the end of the month. So it is because of the glory of work that people work, and because there is dignity in labor. Honorable Speaker, I must thank the mover for having the foresight to bring this important piece of legislation before us. Honorable Speaker, the issue of pensions is intrinsically linked with that of salary scales. If salaries are not increased, Honorable Speaker, it has a corresponding effect on the take-homes or take-away that is called pensions. Honorable Speaker, for far too long, our very industrious workers have been wallowing in abject poverty, if you like, untold suffering after long years of hard work. And I believe fervently this bill has come to put a smile on the face of our hardworking men and women. Honorable Speaker, the prayers sought in the bill are self-explanatory. And according to the mover, with your indulgence, the bill seeks to centralize the pension administration with a view to making the process of pension and gratuity payment less cumbersome as it is currently the case. Honorable Speaker, I have a question for the mover. According to this sentence that I have read, the bill seeks to centralize the pension administration with a view to making the process of pension and gratuity payment less cumbersome. I believe if it is centralized, it will make it more and more cumbersome. It should be decentralized so that those in Basi will not have the recourse to come here. Those in Mansa Congo will not have the recourse to come here. If that is done, when it is decentralized, that will make it less cumbersome. I think it must be an oversight. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, our hard Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to be compensated for the time loss, as it pleases you. Yes, Honorable Speaker, contemporary trends in Africa and the wider world have seen instances where pensioners' funds have been abused time without number. And I think this is very unfair to our hardworking pensioners. Honorable Speaker, it goes without saying, a worker isn't paid according to how he or she works, but there is need for a worker to be compensated. Honorable Speaker, this bill has just come to address a 7-decade problem that we have been grappling with. Because according to the Vice President's objects and reasons, this was enacted since 1950. 1950 to date is 7 decades, 70 years. So this act is quite obsolete. If you like, it's archaic. And I think it will go a long way in putting a smile on the faces of our hardworking men and women. And Honorable Speaker, when people are due for retirement, they expect a takeaway, that is to take to their families. And I will impress on the Vice President to make sure when these retirees are due to take their takeaways, make sure it is held expedited. With these few remarks, I want to thank the mover for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Jara East. I suppose to compensate you, but you finish your contribution before the time. Thank you very much. That's okay. That's okay. Now, let's move to Honorable Member for Opasalu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And thank you very much, Honorable Vice President, for bringing this very important bill to this Parliament today. Honorable Speaker, when I read the second sentence of the objects and reasons, which is as part of the Civil Service Reform Program, I was really moved because the reforms that we need in the civil service actually should have been done since yesterday. This is really something that is needed. And I think this pension scheme, I think is also a step in the right direction. However, I also want to tell the Honorable Vice President that there is a need further to restructure the pay scale of government. Because when the salaries were increased by 50% here last year, and I think I told the Minister of Finance here, that we should have looked at grade 1 through grade 6, even if you mean doubling their salaries, then we look at what happened from grade 7 to grade 12. But it's really sad that at the end of the month, somebody will be receiving $2,000 or $3,000 a month as your salary. And I think there is a need in part of these reforms to critically look at grade 1 to grade 6 in our salary structure, or at best to look at the total salary structure of government. And I think this pension scheme also is also a very good step in the right direction. Honorable Speaker, I think it's important, whether it's government or the private sector, to ensure you are able to retain your employees, especially very good employees. And I think this scheme is one of the ways that you can help in employee retention. Honorable Speaker, I work in the private sector for almost 20 years. And I clearly understand some of these pension schemes, what it does to be able to maintain some of us who have never worked in government anyway. But I know the reason why I keep staying there for almost 20 years. And I have never worked for government until I'm here in this parliament. And we are talking about almost 20 years. Honorable Speaker, when I make a comparison, the pension scheme that are available to us in terms of the National Provident Fund, at the Social Security, my employees are paying 5% of their salary. And we are also contributing 10% of that. And when I make a comparison here, I'm seeing here, especially on the funding of this thing, on the Section 6 funding of the benefits, the government employee has been deducted 5%, which I think is okay. But I also urge the government to see what can they also add to that 5% that that the employee is contributing. I have not seen it here, but maybe when we get to the other stages of this bill, maybe that could be very clear. But I think it's essential that if an employee is working for you and they are ready to be deducted 5% for this pension scheme, I think the employer, not here being the government, I think they should be able to also contribute something. Honorable Speaker, to go further along, I think it's also equally important that if we're going to take taxes before these deductions are made, we also need to be very careful. At the time that the pensioner is taking that funds, I think also we need to look at, do they actually have to pay taxes at that end? Because if you pay tax already, when this money was being deducted, why do you have to pay tax when you are actually receiving this pension on the other end? So I think when we get into the nitty-gritty, I think we can look at those things in detail. Now, again, in general, I think this is really progress, and I stand to support it. And again, the two things here were a decent livelihood for a retiree at the end of their active service. And secondly, to centralize the pension administration. And I hope everything will be automated. Honorable Speaker, I think it's also essential we take a look at what happened in the other parts of the region, where people will have an opportunity not only to be deducted 5%, but also to be able to, in fact, increase your deduction. If I choose to be deducted 10%, I think the scheme should be able to allow me to be deducted more than what the basic minimums are. And on that note, Honorable Speaker, I will stop here until we get back to the real debate or the real clause by clause, so that I can give some of these additional things we can do together to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. May I now call on Honorable Member for Busumbala. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. The floor is mine. Honorable Speaker, I wanted to raise a question about this pension issue when I was told about the table office that I was late for it. But thank God that I have this bill in front of me today. And then, according to the Vice President's presentation, he talked about the issues that I wanted to ask, is the late payment of pensioners their money. That's the problem I wanted to ask. But, Madam Speaker, sorry, Mr. Speaker, the Vice President talked about highly motivated civil service. They all want to, to work, to have a very highly motivated and performing civil service, attraction of and retention of civil services, to create a decent livelihood of retirees, and then also to minimize the burden on the payment. I want to support, as others have said, But what I wanted to, I want the Vice President or the government to come up, because that's why in 2016 we gave them the authority to reform. So if they are reforming, we expect such bills to come, because our pensioners at home, has been alluded by the member for Willie West. Pensioners, you work for all your life, you go home and be a beggar, a destitute in the streets, which shouldn't be called for, or which shouldn't be called for. So, and then if your bill is trying to seek to address that, then that means it's a right in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction. But Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want the government to look into the issue as been mentioned by Honorable Member for Upper Salon. Before you talked about salary, you talked about pension, because your pension is determined by your salary. And I want to suggest to him to have this question, wouldn't it also be proper, or is the government looking into that? A holistic overhaul and review of the salary scheme. If you want to give me a decent life, maybe the bill might the decent life will not be answered if my salary was not okay when I was going for retirement. The bill might answer the question of the late payment or the compulsion in the payment, because you have the institution already there. But the money that the pensioner is going to go with home is determined by his salary. Thank you very much. What I want to put across, I just want to say, in conclusion, that I really support the bill, and I believe members will support it. But, Mr. Speaker, I want the government to also look into revising the salary scheme. As been alluded by a member for Upper Salem, not to consider as just a suggestion from him, but there should be overhaul and review of the salary scheme. Because if you are bringing this bill, it says it was 1950, that was before independence. I believe the salary scheme was also 1950, before independence. So if we are going to clear the era of colonialism in our era, let's look into everything. As it is now,
Thank you, Honorable Member for Busumbala. I will ask you to stay until the end of the debate. You. Honorable, may I now call on Honorable Member for Upper Fuladu. Upper Fuladu. It's not in. Then let's go to Honorable Member for Janjambure. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Some of my comments had already been said. However, Madam Vice President, I welcome you to the National Assembly again. I want to, as a retiree, I want to emphasize to you where this whole pension has its problem. I worked at the water resources for 35 years. And majority of the time, civil servants retire and they cannot get their pensions until they die. This is very sad. It had happened so many times. I think this scheme would address that. In fact, I even went on page 8 to 9 to add onto it as J that nobody should retire, anybody who retires should be able to get all your payments within 3 months. I don't know whether that would be favorable to you, but that's because that's where the problem is. You work all your life. Your pension money that is less than even $10,000 is sometimes, it takes you 6 months because the accounting officer, sometimes you have to go from your department to the treasury, to and fro, taking your own file. I have seen that. So I hope this, the officers that will be responsible would address that. And I'm very happy with the bill because it has come to increase pensions. There are a lot of pensioners, as it had been said by both the majority leader and Woolly West. A lot of people who would ignore their pensions until 1 year or 2 years before they come to pick them, just because it's so minimal. You want to come for it from all the way Basse or Janjambure, probably, you spend half of it on your transport fare. So I'm happy that this bill is going to look into those. So my other comments have already been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Janjambure. May I now call Honorable Member for Central Badibu? And that is the last on my list. Any Honorable Member who wants to? We've not seen your cards, so take.
Please, take them, take them.
Well, if you don't raise your card, how do you expect us to register you? Yes. Okay, now they are registering you. Okay. Lower Nyumi, yes. Talindi. Banjul. Fonyi Prefect. And nominated member Nde Yasin. Any order? Ilyasa. Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Honorable Speaker, this bill is timely. It's long overdue. It's a transition from colonialism to independence. By looking at the bill that we are trying to repeal, it's as old as my great-grandmom. Mr. Speaker, the bill is self-explanatory and is smart and is achievable. By looking at it, is centered on civil service reform from 2018 to 27. So it means it has a time frame. Mr. Speaker, the workers in this country suffered a lot since time immemorial. And I believe the bill has come to uplift their social and moral status in our society. Mr. Speaker, everybody would like to have something at the end of the day when you get old, we know that aging is real. It must come, whether you like it or not. And all people need to be protected. This bill is there to promote their fundamental human rights. It's there to secure them. It's a package for social protection. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I would like to read the second paragraph of the bill. In addition, as attraction, retention, and attrition of highly trained and professionalized personnel is critical to the effective and efficient performance of the civil service, the bill seeks to address these long-standing issues in the civil service. If we don't have a system in place, at the end of the day, our competent, our resourceful people will migrate for greener pasture. And what will happen to our institutions? Our institutions will finally collapse. And as a government, or as a country, once our institutions are not empowered with well-resourced persons, we are doomed forever. Mr. Speaker, retention is very, very important in the civil service. Those human resources will be there to push the image of the institution, to defend its missions and visions. So the bill seeks to cater for that. And Mr. Speaker, going further, it guarantees a decent livelihood for retirees at the end of their active service. As I said, people like Honorable Jeng of Lower Nyomi, a member of Woodley West, will one day be old and they will not be with us here. The Deputy Speaker. So what do you expect at the end of the day? When you have your grandchildren by your side. So you need something in your pocket. A head of a household or a head of a compound who is not economically liberated will not have voice in this.
Honorable member, remember we agree on 4 minutes and you have...
Thank you. I never knew that you
only
agreed on
1
time.
minute more. Only 1 minute.
Give me 1 minute. Let me wrap.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, we will come into the details of the bill where we'll make some adjustments to meet its objects and the reasons. But as I said, every honorable member in this House will give their blessings to this bill because it's a bill for all of us. And I will not hesitate to thank the Vice President for coming up with this future plan for our country. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. May I now call on nominated member Nde Yasin. The Honorable nominated member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think, Honorable Speaker, I have to commend Madam Vice President for coming up with this essential bill. Essential in the sense that better late than never. Honorable Speaker, we are talking about the merits of this bill. So where I'm going to talk more is that I think this will make retirees not to look for contracts. Honorable Speaker, if you see retired civil servants going on contract, and I always tease some of my friends that you are retired and you want to, I thought that you are retired and you want to come back. He or she will tell me, I am retired, but I am not tired. I am not tired in the sense, my children, I cannot feed them. So I must really come back for contract. So this bill, I think if it is enacted in the National Assembly, will minimize this. If you look at it, the pensioners, as some of my honorable members said, the pensioners don't even want to pension. Sometimes they will reduce their ages just to make sure that they still. And these are really issues that we really have to address. We have to address. I thank you for coming up with this relevant bill. It is relevant in the sense that salaries are increased, but still people are getting poorer and poorer. Salary has been increased. I am having only $2,000 or $3,000. What can that do? Which means to say, before the salary increment, they were even having $500. And these are the issues that we really need to address. For how long? 1950. Some of us were not born. 1950 up to now is, I think, 70 years. These are things that we really need to talk about. These are the principles and merits that we have to talk about, and we will deliberate more on the debate proper after it is referred to the relevant committees. Anybody here will say no to this bill. We want our people to prosper. We want them to progress. Better than retire and going to your bed, staying, knowing that tomorrow I will have a bowl of food or a plate of food on my table. But if that is not available, even those who are working, the civil servants now working, they really need more because they eat their salaries before they receive it. I didn't know. When I told somebody, please borrow me 500, they told me, I ate my salary before I received it. So what does that mean? Really, we need to alleviate poverty. We cannot say that we cannot alleviate poverty. What we can, if we prioritize, strategize, and plan properly, we will definitely alleviate poverty. This country has a lot to, we can do so many things. We have natural resources. We have our people who can work for the betterment of our civil servant. I think, Honorable Speaker, I don't want to talk more. The debate proper is on the way, and I am really ready to talk more on this bill because I really support it. And I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable Nominated Member.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. But before I proceed, please allow me to thank the mover of the bill, Her Excellency, for bringing what an important bill before this August Assembly. Honorable Speaker, our civil servants deserve better. But it could be noticed that poverty in the civil service begins at the retirement. And this is what exactly the bill intends to address. I don't want to go further because the points I wanted to highlight were articulately dealt with the member of Janjambure and Majority respectively. Because the end result at the end of the day is payments of benefits. It's where the devil lies. And as he rightly stated, some people at the time of retirement actually will pass away without even receiving their benefits. So all other nitty-gritties have been mentioned by honorable speakers who have earlier took the floor and spoke at length on that. But actually we will give it another opportunity when the debate proper comes so that we can go into the nitty-gritties of this important bill. The bill also seeks to give hope to our civil servants. That since 1950, probably a lot of people are living witness to that actually, that people in the civil service have been adversely affected as a result of poor pay scales and salary scales. And at the end of the day, when you hope that at the end of the day you'll have a basket full of something to take home, and then you end up being very disappointed. So in essence, actually, if this important bill comes to address that, I think we should embrace it. But it's important that actually we all look at it critically to answer what all those things need to be there to address the fate and the plight of that important civil servant are included into the bill and the bill for the betterment of our civil service. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I wait to take my seat, but then once again, in conclusion, to thank the Vice President for this important and timely bill.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May I now call Honorable Member for Nyani?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And I also add my voice to previous speakers that I also thank the Honorable Vice President for bringing this bill on time. Honorable Speaker, I think this bill has come to rescue some of us who are already retired. I'm retired, but I'm not tired. Honorable Speaker, this bill, just to cut it short and just to brief the items which we may be needed on this bill is, first of all, is the number of years. I think if the years can be increased from 60 to 65, would be better, so that at least this contract will no longer be existing. Because you can go retire, then you will find contract for almost 2 years, almost you're coming to almost 64 years. If I said I'm now at 65, you may not believe. But already I'm at 65, so I'm still strong. So with the help of the God. So, but notwithstanding, if that can be increased, so I think that would be better, so that this means of contract will be think of past. The other thing is, in my table now, I have about 3 people who were my staff before are complaining for their pension. They have come to the Treasury, but still now they couldn't get their pension. So I think this thing has come timely, so that at least if you are pensioned, you can able to get your benefits as early as possible. The other thing also is about the retirement. I think as far as it has been stated here for voluntarily, you can go for 45. Then if at all you cannot reach to 60, you can request for your voluntary. For 45 or 50, then you request voluntary retirement, then you retire if at all your health condition cannot meet it. So I think this bill has come to time, but also for the increment of the 4 years increment, I think why not we suggest every year at least the pensioner can be, his salaries can be increased, because inflation will be raising almost every year. So as year goes, then at least the pensioner's salary can be increased yearly, so that at least he can able to cope with the situation of the commodities which is in the market. So I think, Honorable Speaker, this bill is timely, and I really appreciate it, and there are a lot of benefits in due course which pensioners will have. So I think on that note, Mr. Speaker, I think this is all what I have, so that at least my concern is now is the number of the years, at least let it be increased to 65, so that pensioners can go up to 65 without any other contract to be renewed every 2 years, making 64. So on that note, I thank you. I'll take my seat.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member for Ilyasa.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Although I'll be very brief, because when I go through this bill, it's one of the most important bills so far. Because if you could allow me just to read the headings, under retirement on grounds of incapacity, and also the pension open transfer of services. and also the refund of contribution. That can tell that this is one of the most important bills so far. But I'm also warning the government that we are now going towards the election. So there's no use this as a campaign tool. And after, they become relaxed. That being the case,
point of order,
let's try to make things as soon as possible so
point
that
of
people
order.
are able to understand.
Point of order.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. May I now call on Honorable Member for Banjul North.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is nothing much to say. The issues have been highlighted. The issue of someone contributing towards society not being compensated at a time when he or she is really in need of support as a result of lack of access to what is due to him or her in terms of pension, and also a pension that he or she cannot depend on to live a decent life. But I think three key issues have been highlighted here, which I would want the Honorable Vice President to take note. That they have been taking monies, as has been highlighted by the member for Serakunda, that I think that's the focus now. How can government ensure that the monies that are being collected for pension be invested? You have something like Social Security, but even Social Security is not giving them the due. Social Security benefits are a bit relatively better than what you get from government pensions. But even that, they are being shortchanged. Workers are being shortchanged. Is to come up with schemes whereby the monies will be invested so that a worker can even be receiving a salary that he or she was receiving while she was in active service, as in terms of pensions. A worker can be receiving pension because of the money has been capitalized, has been invested in initiatives that accrue in terms of interest, so that one can be receiving the same or even more, and that's possible. And the other element is that pensions are preceded by salaries. The salary structure of this country needs to be revisited. We need to have a decent wage, minimum wage, decent wage, that at the end of the day, when you are receiving pension, it will reflect there. We want decent wage, we want decent pension. That's the bottom line. The third element is that the structural processes that is in place, and that is what this scheme is coming to fix. As has been highlighted by members, this is something that is welcome. It is coming to address anomalies, to address challenges that the workers have been facing, retirees in particular. But the element of timely access is also key. So that too has to be addressed. Because if you look at the clause 4, establishment of the scheme, paragraph 2, the scheme is created for the purpose of ensuring payment, ensuring timely payment. I think timely should be, well, when you get to the details, that is, they're talking about proper debate, but this is also debate. This is debate. But when it comes to considering the bill in detail, I think those are issues that one can inject there. That if you make it mandatory, that they have to have timely access should be key there. It should be key, because as they have been saying, the workers have been lamenting about that. That at the end of the service,
restore the quote it further in the fact that I have one word there, the attrition rate which is observed. Attrition is a form of discouraging situations, and in order to retain, your situations have to be motivational, and you have that. You could be motivational in the less stringent laws that you could put off. You could be more in ensuring that there is freedom in the civil service. And thereby, you would not have the civil servant to try to move away. You would not have the civil servant who would sabotage. You would not have the civil servant who is going to act otherwise in order to derail the aims and objectives of what you stand for. You have my blessing, you have my prayers, and be rest assured that you are on course. Whether you understand it or not, and as one very popular singer once said in Senegal, even if it stops here, the deal is done. Even if it stops here, the deal is done. We know those who said it. I would go further to say you are giving guarantee. And remember, during the course of the contribution, even if an individual contributes a dime, one dime, and tomorrow you are responsible for that situation. You know how that guy would end? The way that guy is going to end up is going to be determined by the situations that are going to come up to salvage that individual. And this is for purely that. The number of youths that were crossing from going to the middle part of the Mediterranean, and the boat capsizes. What next? They are looking forward to. What we are talking about today here is raising a good hope, a high hope and confidence, not only in the government, but in you who have brought this bill here. And I hope it's not going to end up in the cells only to gather dust. Implementation is the negative character of the Gambia government that we have to tell you. If you have the spore, kick it. A civil service that is going to be well catered for, a civil service that is going to rely on the given. Invest. Take a cue from Social Security. You have been given a lot of ideas, particularly from the member for Serekunda. He's given you the way. Now the torch is in your hand. You need to push further and then make sure this money is invested for the benefit of these pensioners. Looking no further. We have seen in the Social Security, those who are working are benefiting much more than the pensioners themselves. We have seen that. Building story buildings, building homes, attractive, which the pensioner cannot do. What is going to be your stand on that?
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Lower Newmi. Your time is up.
Madam Speaker, I'm sorry. Honorable Speaker.
Line of debate. Your Excellency, Vice President, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable National Assembly members, for such great deliberations on a matter that is of fundamental importance to the rights of the population, particularly those who are within the range of the current discussions on this bill. I want to thank, I've listened carefully, I've taken notes, and I just want to assure you that we are in it together. We are here to move the country forward. We are here to support the policy, the reforms that are being put under the leadership of His Excellency President Barrow to move this country beyond us and for posterity. And therefore, whatever we do here today, as all of you have rightly indicated, is about justice. It's about recognizing the fact that people have invested their energy from youthful state to the point that they have reached retirement and therefore need to enjoy this retirement under the shades of their houses, their trees, or wherever they may find themselves. I am very much touched by the unity of purpose and direction and the objectivity of this debate. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you, and I feel that the Gambia is going to move forward and we will all move it together. Thank you very much. I have few comments to make because I've taken detailed notes and my team of experts are also with me. I know that the bill, this is going to be subjected to the committee, which is the right procedure, and all the issues that you have raised will also be taken on board, and clarifications, including other information that you may bring in. We are together because we cannot do it alone, but it is the intention that matters, and that's what we have brought here. At the end of the day, you are going to be the custodians of this bill because you're going to pass it for the betterment of humanity, of which we are all in it. I would want to bring in certain issues that you raised and have been guided by the technical experts. The bill, this bill was derived as a matter of studies that were done, and I think during your discussions or deliberations in the committee, you will have access to all those information that will guide you. And I cannot but agree with you, all the archaic things that have been going on. 50 years, this is about 70, is it 70? 1950 to date is 70. And that's what this government is trying to do. It's a reform process. When people come and go, but institutions will remain. It is those policies and practices and procedures that we put in those institutions that we inherit. And everybody has a right to those institutions, irrespective of who you are and where you are. So I want to make that very clear. This reform is about the people. We are also, I want to just also make it clear that the scheme is defined benefit scheme as opposed to defined contribution scheme. It's defined benefit scheme as opposed to contribution scheme. And that will be made clear when you come to discuss with the experts. There's been a lot of debate before we came up with the bill, because already we looked at it from a rights perspective. We looked at it also from the point that was being raised by Serakunda, Honorable Khalifa, regarding how can we make sure that justice is done to be able to contribute effectively and so on. And these have the reasons why we came up with these schemes. And maybe when they get to the subcommittee that is going to discuss this bill, address some of the anomalies that are happening, the corruption, the other malpractices that are happening. We have to be open about them. If we want to address them, we also have to have a decent pay scale. We have to give some motivational incentives. We have to do, and that is exactly what we are doing in this reform, looking at how are we going to do it. If we agree that the amount of money that is needed to pay this, it's of course going to be based on best practices, and like you said, we want people who we can retain to address the attrition rate, and also to motivate them to feel that I should remain in my country, to support, because the reality of life is we are all faced in the same markets. We have responsibilities. We have a lot of things to be done. And as educated or people with skills, you want to have something that will be decent for you to live a decent life. Once you have that, and I think certain institutions we have that we talked about, the private sector, why are they being so stable at most of the time? Not that they have everything, but the basic minimum and the other incentives that come along with it are things that I think that are there, and I believe we're going to work on that based on our capacity and what is available for that to happen. We also have to coverage of the scheme. We also have what we call the employees will contribute 5%, while government will meet the balance using the formula, the difference being that benefits will be calculated as opposed to current net salary being done. So all these formulas are going to be discussed with you. You will see them, and then let's see what we can agree on so that we can move forward. Government is currently reviewing the pay and grading structure of the civil service. When this is finalized, we hope to see an improved salary structure for civil servants. There is a study already that is done looking at even addressing, because we've just finished the draft. I looked at the draft being shared among nations. It will finally come here, but then we are working on this, is looking at what are some of the factors that are happening. You have ghost workers. You have people who are posted in places and they are not there, and yet their names appear, and so many other factors. It's a very interesting study that has come out, and you cannot believe what has been going on. So it's like a box of a debate in order for us to move forward. And that study is going to be finalized also, and will be among those things to be taken account to understand where we are going. It will be done, and as you rightly said, the salaries are grossly inadequate. But whilst it is inadequate, we must remember also that we have to look at the current context. We are caught up with COVID-19, and we are caught up with a lot of things. So the whole global political economy has changed and is going to affect the way we're going to do. But despite that, as a country, we can come up with innovative ways and means, learning from your great minds how we're going to move forward with this process. We count on you when the debate opens, when the select committee is meeting, and when it comes to the House, so that you put our minds, do your research, so that we get the best for this bill that will transcend our own generation. And I appreciate the fact that some of you are talking beyond yourselves, and that's what is expected. For this